Good afternoon, everyone. So, I'm here today to present my report about the three pillars of environmental policy. So, this is my presentation. So, first is um, what is environmental policy? So, in our organizations, it is relevant that environmental policy is the activity or the products that an organizations have. So, the purpose of this is to organize, and it provides a framework to meet the objectives and targets of, and of course to improve the environmental performance as well. So before anything else, so we need to have the history of environmental policy making. So um, in history environmental policy making, so in public policies, so it aims to improve, uh, aim to have the environmental protection that the way date back to the ancient times. So the earliest sewers were constructed into Mohenjo-daro and Indus Harapan and civilization and in Rome. So as you can see that if we say if we say sewers is a system, or it is a network of pipes, pumps, and that forced to have the collection of mga wastewater or mga sewage from the community. So the modern sewerage system is fall under the two categories, which are the domestic and industrial sewers and storm sewers. So as you can see that the ancient Roman civilization, it is which is date back some of 4,500 years and 2,700 years ago. So the city-states of the ancient Greece created laws that governed forest harvesting some 2,300 years ago, and the feudal European societies established hunting preserves, which limited to game and timber harvesting to royalty, that is effectively preventing overexploitation by 1000 CA. So the city of Paris developed Europe's the first large-scale sewer system during the 17th century. So, an environmental policy is a process of enhancing the environmental management system to achieve the improvement and the overall environmental performance in line with the organizations and environmental policy. So, kumbaga, it should the environmental policy has the declaration and commitment wherein to the environmental and to the environment. So the policy should serve the foundation of the EMS, and to provide the unifying vision of environmental concern to the entire organization. So the policy should be more than just not a flowery prose, but since it serves as a framework for the setting of the environmental objectives and targets of the policy that we brought to life. So everyone in the organizations should do or should understand the environmental policy and what is expected and for them in order to achieve the organization's objectives and targets. So the policy there is contain the key of commitment. So including the commitment of the continual improvement. So it doesn't mean na we must improve the all areas of our areas at once, but the policy should drive the overall efforts to continually improve the organization environmental management. So of course, organization is probably has the environmental policy for now, but for example, the organization is probably committed to the complying of the law to avoid the major environmental problems in a minimum. So the documents are existing in commitment, so it is a starting point, of course, diba? So the policy should be related on the products that is served as a services, so as well as the support of the activities. So this is considered that the result of the preliminary review before the finalizing of the policy. So it makes sure that the policy of the reflect of the environmental aspects of the products, services, and activities should have the policy simple and understandable, of course. So, when the effects of industrialization and urbanization increased during the late 19th and early 20th centuries and the threatened of human health, the governments developed additional rules and regulations for urban hygiene, mga sewage, sanitations, and housing. So, as well as the first laws of devoted to protecting the natural landscapes and wildlife. So, the wealthy individuals and private foundations such as the Sierra Club Foundation in 1892 and the National Audubon Society founded in 1905 is also contributed to the efforts to conserve the natural resources in our and of course the wildlife. So the environmental policy can be stand alone, so the documents or it can be integrated into our health and our safety in our and of course the quality or the and other organizational policies. So it considered that it should be developed, it should be involved in developing the policy and the best process, of course. So this range of people in our organization should increase the commitment of ownership. So it makes sure that our employees and the organization should understand the policy. Of course, options for communicating your policies that is internally include posting of around the site. So it should have a awareness from time to time, kumbaga, for asking the employees what the policy means for them, di ba? So the policy should be also communicated externally. So the options for external communications includes the business, the business cards, newspapers, and other annual reports. That is the other option. So we used to choose to communicate well, to have the policy proactive and to respond ang any request, diba? So environmental policy, what is all about? So if we say environmental policy, it is a primarily concerned with how to govern the relationship between human and the natural environment in a mutual beneficial manner. So, kumbaga, has been defined in terms of the problems that is addresses in such controlling our pollution and waste flows and limiting our habitat losses. So the environmental policies must include the pledge to continually measure the improvement of environmental performance, and many include a promise to seek ways to reduce energy, limit the fuel consumption, lessen the emissions, prevent pollution, reduce greenhouse gases, and reduce potable water consumption or infinite number of other appropriate matrix that when we measured, it can show improvements in environmental sustainability. So the environmental policy there is decreases to the entire organization of what is the utmost importance to an organization. So beyond that is our financial and budgetary concerns, di ba, maapektuhan siya. And then, so here, what is the three pillars of the environmental policy? So and the three pillars of an environmental policy are those policies that are needed because it is an environmental values that are usually not considered in an organization decision making. So there are two main reasons for that omission. First is the environmental effects, economic and externalities. Polluters do not usually bear the consequences of their actions. So the negative effect there is most often occur in elsewhere, so or in a future. So the second there is the natural resources are the almost always the underpriced because they are often assumed to infinite availability. So the three pillars of environmental policy is the compliance, in the improvement, in the and prevention. So if we say compliance is we use the compliance in terms of environmental policy because how to manage, of course, to process and how to generate one of the generate organization. So it is specifically now we have to attain goals in the organization. So this compliance is one of the three pillars of organization that we have in the environment. If we have the organization has the environmental policy. The second is the improvement. So improvement there in the industry in the environmental policy area it is used to evaluate the effectiveness of an organization because it provides the framework and of course the outcomes of the organizations that we had. And then the prevention. So prevention there in the environmental policy is very important in terms of effectiveness. So implementation of prevention of environmental policy there is about pollution prevention and waste management. So it can prevent or minimize the program to reduce and to recycle the materials and of course to reduce harmful effects for the human activities and of course to our ecosystem. So next is the three pillars of the environmental policy are the environmental policy, which is the successful, the robust, and proactive EMS foster pollution and going to prevent, have the compliance with the applicable laws and regulations, and strive the continual improvement of an organization if you have the three pillars of the environmental policy. So it is very useful to the organization that these three pillars of the environmental policy is it is very effective to have these three pillars. Next is identifying the environmental aspects. So if we say identifying environmental aspects is it is one of the plan for the control to significant environmental impacts of our organization. So kumbaga
Identifying environmental attributes of the products, activities, and services is used to determine those that could have significant impacts to the environment, on the environment. So these elements of an organization's in activity or products of services that can be interact with the environment. So why is it important to identify environmental aspect? Yes, of course, it is very important because it's to have goal for identifying the environmental aspects, because it is used as to understand which are the important environmental issues that we had in the organization, and how to manage it and controlled by the use of environmental management system that we had in our organization. So because if we say identifying environmental aspects, it's either positive or a negative effects. So, kumbaga, once we have to finish identifying all the environmental aspects that we have, so the next step is to consider if you have the ability to control or to influence those the activities. So if we say mga good aspects, so it is neutral to keep that in our mind, that the environmental aspects could be positive or negative. So such as if we say positive, for example, like recycled materials, diba? So this is the positive part. And if we say negative, is when you discharge toxic materials to the stream. So if we say discharge, so affected there is the human out there of an organization, di ba? So those organization is not expected to manage those issues for outside its sphere of the influence. So well, your organization is probably had a control over how much electricity is used, so it is likely does not control the way which is electricity is generated. So those are the environmental aspects, or the three pillars that we had. So thank you very much for your listening to my presentation. I hope that somehow, or as you listen, keep in their mind that those three pillars is good, is one of the best way to have on the organization. Thank you. Full na ba